Hello, my dear students, and welcome back to Victory Batch. So, I am your Diksha ma'am, and today we are going to discuss Animal Kingdom. So, this is a kind of the chapter where you find it a little boring, you're not interesting, or the chapter you do not find it interesting. The reason is because you have to memorize a lot of things. So let's solve all the problems that you face in this Animal Kingdom chapter and excel it. So let's get started. So this is a very important chapter from NEET point of view. And you know, every year the questions are asked and the pattern is they will ask you question from NCERT only. So today I have covered each and every line of NCERT in my notes only. So we'll be taking up only the NCERT basis. You don't have to, you know, go into much of a detail because technically it's impossible for you to learn outside the NCERT only because I can teach you whatever there is like orders and groups, etc. But they are of no use because in NCERT or the NEET syllabus always say that you have to do it up to the phylum and in the chordates up to class form, right? And this is what you have to do. So today we are going to just excel in this chapter. You will no longer face any difficulties and you will have this chapter on tips. All you have to do is to attend the entire chapter nicely. Okay. All right, guys. So let's get started with the Animal Kingdom. So first of all, before getting into this chapter, what are animals? What are animals? Because the chapter name is Animal Kingdom. Okay, what are animals? Animals are multicellular organisms. That means they are made up of number of cells. They are made up of number of cells. Okay. Second, they show heterotrophic mode of nutrition. What does it means? It means they cannot produce their food. They cannot produce their food. Also, they are holozoic. They engulf the food through mouth. They engulf food through mouth. Like we eat the food. Okay. So we are showing holozoic mode of nutrition. Also, if we compare them with the plants, we can move. And also, we have sense organs and neurons, and definitely we are eukaryotes. But there are also certain exceptions that there are certain organisms that cannot move and they don't even have sense organs and neurons. They are sponges. They are sponges. Okay, sponges do not show neurons and the sense organs. Okay, now we have classified the animals. Now, why there is a need of classification? For example, if I say the cockroach and ant, they belong to the same group. Yes, they do. So if there are certain characters present in the cockroach, they must be present in the ant as well. So if you have read the certain basic features of one group, that means all the animals will be having the similar characters and you don't have to study each and every organism that belongs to the same group differently. So if you know the group of the entire phylum or the group, you will be knowing the characteristics feature of all the animals that belongs to that group. So that becomes or that makes our life easier, that makes the study of the animals easier. Okay, all right. So now what are the characters? On what basis are you classifying them? Okay, so for example, who has decided what features to keep them or what are the bases on which we can classify them? So there are certain characters. First of all, like level of organization, then symmetry, then germ layers. What are these? We'll be discussing them in detail in this chapter only. Don't worry, I'm just introducing you with the terms. Phylum, segmentation and notochord. Okay, all right. So in the lower classes, you must have heard of the name phylums. Okay, let's revise what are the various phylums we have. So we start from the simplest to complex. Okay. So the first phylum that we have, is Porifera. Then we have Coelenterata, also known as Cnidaria. Then we have Ctenophora. Then we have Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Hemichordata and Chordata. So all these are phylums that you must have done in your lower grades, and we are going to discuss in detail. Some of the characters you must be knowing already because they are already teachers have taught you in the lower grades, but some other characters, the complex one, will be discussing in this chapter and they are very interesting, right? Okay, now how do you classify the organism? First of all, there is always a kingdom like Animal Kingdom, and then you classify them into the phylums. All right, like these all are phylums. phylums. Then you classify them into the class. For example, in Arthropoda, we have class Insecta. Okay, so class classification up to the class level we'll be doing in the chordates. Okay, now what are chordates? All the organisms which do not have notochord, they are non-chordates. Right from here to here, these do not have notochord, so they are non-chordates. What is a notochord? It's a rod-like structure. It's a rod-like structure. We'll be discussing that also in detail. And other are chordates which have the notochord. So chordata we'll be discussing in more detail as comparison to the non-chordates. And then you classify them into the order, then family, then genus, and then species. Fine. So this is how you classify the organism. Now let's see what are the characters, on what basis are you classifying them. So the very first is your level of organization. The very first is your level of organization. Okay. Now what is level of organization? Here we are talking about complexity of the body. Complexity of the body. Not every organism have a body structure like us. Not every organism have a highly developed brain like us. Every organism on this planet Earth is different from the other. Okay, all right. So we started from the simplest organism. Then we are going to the complex one. So we have divided the entire organism into 4 groups. One, there are organisms in which cells are aggregated or loosely aggregated. That means the group of cells are present, but tissues are not present. Now you must be thinking, ma'am, you said tissues are the group of cell. But if you remember, what's the complete definition of the tissues? Then they are group of cells similar in structure. For example, if this is a muscle cell, they are similar in structure, they're similar in origin. All are mesodermal in origin and they're performing the same function. These are tissues. These are tissues. Now, a group of cell different in structure like that. Are they known as tissues? No, you cannot call them as tissues. Might be this is mesodermal in origin, this is endo, and this is ecto. So you will not call it as a tissue. They are just the group of cell. So these type of organism where group of cells are present, they are different, but they are just loosely aggregated. Aggregation means they are the cluster. Then you call it as first, which is cellular level of organization. So this type of organization is seen in Porifera. Porifera are sponges. Porifera is a phylum of sponges. Next, second you have is tissue level of organization. Second you have is tissue level of organization. Okay, this is third and this is fourth. Number is on the basis of like how complex they are. Now, if a group of cell, they are similar, performing similar function and they are from same origin, then you call them as tissues. So this is tissue level of organization. Cell performing the same function are arranged as tissues. You see that in Coelenterata, also known as Cnidaria and Ctenophora. So Coelenterata and Ctenophora are 2 different phylums, whereas Coelenterata have a different name known as Cnidaria. So most of you gets confused between their names. You don't need to confuse it, right? All right. Then we have, okay, tissues are formed. What next? After tissues, what can be formed, guys? Organs. Now, if the organs are formed, right, or we can say the tissues, they are now grouping together to form the organs. That is your organ level of organization. So the organ level of organization is seen in your Platyhelminthes. Platyhelminthes are your flatworms. Okay. Now we have the organ system. Here the organs are present, but they are not communicating with each other. For example, the brain doesn't know, because they don't have a well-developed brain, what its other organ is doing, what its reproductive organs are doing. But in organ system, like our brain knows what or how to control various body parts. So that's a kind of a system. Every organ is functioning as a system with the other ones, like blood vessels attached to the heart. Heart is pumping the blood and then it will go to the tissues. Okay, and brain is also controlling the heart. Brain is also controlling everything, right? So here a proper system has been formed. So this one you can see right from Aschelminthes. Right from Aschelminthes to chordates. Okay, so this is the first basis of classification, that how complex their body is, and the name is level of organization. Let's talk about the other one. Then we have, if the organism is having organ system level of organization. So it will be having highly developed organs, fine. But sometime in the digestive system, this alimentary canal, it can be complete. For example, this is alimentary canal. Okay, this is alimentary canal. If the alimentary canal have a mouth and it have the anus, then you call it as a complete alimentary canal. But if the alimentary canal have only one opening like this, okay, only one opening like this, and this is acting as a mouth as well as anus, then this is a kind of incomplete digestive system. The incomplete digestive system is also known as blind sac. Also known as blind sac. Okay, this kind of organization can be seen in some Platyhelminthes. It can be seen in some Platyhelminthes. Okay, but right from Aschelminthes, right from, all right, right from Aschelminthes to chordates, they have this complete digestive system. Okay, next, circulatory system. Circulatory system is of two types, open and closed. We have also done this in the chapter body fluids and circulation. So here you can see in the open type of circulatory system, blood vessels are not developed. In the closed one, the blood vessels are developed. So the blood flows in the blood vessels in closed one, and here the blood will flow. It can be pumped by the heart, but then it will move into the cavities, open cavities, like in case of cockroach or arthropod, you call it as hemocoel. So here all the organs are bathed in that body fluid only. Okay, so here in the open one, open sinuses are present. Open sinuses, they contains blood. What is the other name of open sinuses? Hemocoel, right? Now, what are the organisms which have open circulatory system? That is Arthropoda and Mollusca. And what have closed? Annelida and Chordata. They have closed circulatory system, which is more efficient than the open one. Okay, all right. Next we have organism can also be divided on the basis of symmetry. On the basis of symmetry. So what is a symmetry first of all? For example, if I have this organism, if I pass a plane through the center of this organism, I can get two equal body half. For example, one eye will be here, one here, half mouth here, or for example, just pass it through me. If you'll cut me into two halves, I'll get one arm here, one leg here, one arm here, one leg here, one eye, half nose, okay, and the set of teeth will also be there. Okay, so this type of organism is a symmetrical. That means if you pass a plane through the center, you can get two equal half. Whereas in the asymmetrical organism, okay, right, asymmetrical here. In the asymmetrical organism, any plane passes through the center does not divide them into equal half. For example, this is one organism which is sponges. In sponges, if you pass any plane, you cannot not get two equal half. You cannot get two equal half. So that's the asymmetry. Whereas in the symmetrical, this is a symmetrical, okay. If I pass the plane, I can get two equal half. Now, symmetrical organisms also, there are of two kind, they have been divided into two categories. One is the radial, another is the bilateral. Okay. In the radial ones, you can pass any plane and get two equal half, right? That can be this plane or this plane, any plane, you can get two equal half. In the bilateral, you can divide them into one plane only. For example, if you cut me through this plane, can you get two equal half? No. If you'll cut me only in this plane only, then you can get two equal half. Whereas here, number of planes can be passed to obtain two equal half. Two equal halves will be obtained because the organism is symmetrical. But the difference is in the planes. Here, only one plane can divide into two equal half. Here, any plane can divide it into two equal half, right? So I'm going to write this down for you. Any plane can divide the body into two equal halves. And in the bilateral one, one plane, only one plane, can divide the body into two equal halves. Okay. Now, what are the example? Let's see. So, the example of the radial one, first of all, is your Coelenterata, Ctenophora, and Echinodermata. And what about the bilateral? We have Annelida, we have Arthropoda, we have Chordata. Okay. Do not forget these examples. The basis of classification is very much important, because if you have learned the basis of classification of animal kingdom, your 60% of the chapter is already done. Yes, 60%. Because, if you'll see the phylums in the NCRT, the initial, 1 to 2, 3 lines are from basis of classification only. So that means 60% is done. And also they ask a number of questions from the basis of classification. Okay, because that's the one that confused the students more. All right, guys, let's move further and talk about the germ layers. That's the another basis of classification. Now, what are germ layers? Okay, so let's get started from the initial. First of all, when a sperm and ova fuses, it forms zygote. What does it form? Zygote. Zygote then divide and form embryo. It forms embryo. Okay, embryos, early embryos. Which embryo? I'm talking about early embryo. Early embryo have a number of cells like this. Later on, these cells, they are divided into 3 types of layers. They're divided into 3 germ layers. Okay, for example, zygote divides and it forms embryo. Embryo have a number of cells. Now these cells, they are differentiated and they get divided into 3 germ layers. The organism which have these 3 germ layers, they are considered as triploblastic. But there are also certain animals which do not have 3, rather 2 germ layers. They are diploblastic. Okay, so germ layers are nothing but these are the layers of cells in the embryo. So organisms can be divided also on the basis of germ layers. There are certain organisms which have only 2 germ layers. How many? 2 germ layers. And there are organisms which have 3 germ layers. Okay, so diploblastic, they have 2 germ layers. Now, what are the layers they have? They have endoderm and ectoderm. Endoderm and ectoderm. Okay, whereas these one, they have 3 germ layers. So, what I have taught you here is the development of us, humans. Okay, and we have 3 germ layers. What are these? One we have is ectoderm. Another we have is mesoderm. So this is the new one that is formed in complex organism. And then we have endoderm. Okay, they have both EE, they have M. M means me, and you are like I am me, and I am triploblastic, I am complex. Okay, learn from that one. So what's the example? So here diploblastic are Coelenterata and Ctenophora. Whereas the triploblastic or 3 germ layers, they're present in Platyhelminthes to chordates. So from Platyhelminthes to chordates, all are triploblastic. That means they have 3 germ layers, right? So that's one criteria. Let's see the another criteria of the basis of classification. That is coelom. What's a coelom? Let me tell you. So coelom is a body cavity. It's a body cavity present between body wall and gut, lined by mesoderm. Lined by mesoderm. So this is a true coelom. This is what a true coelom. Okay. So if any organism have this coelom, which is present between body wall and gut and lined by the layer mesoderm, you call those organisms as eucoelomate. You means true. So you means true, the organism which have true coelom. Which have true coelom. Now how does it looks like? For example, Listen here, guys. If I take the section of the organism's embryo, the embryo will be having an outer layer that is ectoderm. A triploblastic organism have 3 germ layers. Okay. The outer one is ectoderm. Okay. Inner one is endoderm. Inner one is endoderm. All right. So this is going to form a gut and this is a body wall. This is a body wall. Okay. And the layer or the cells on the body wall is of ectoderm. The one which surrounds the gut is endoderm. Now, these both the germ layers, they are also lined by another layer of cells known as mesoderm. So now there is a space present between body wall and gut which is lined by mesoderm on both the side. You call this as coelom. What do you call it as? Coelom. So these two germ layers, these are what? Mesoderm. Okay. And the coelom is a true coelom. These organisms are eucoelomate. Now what are eucoelomate? We'll be talking about them shortly. First, let's talk about now pseudocoelomate and acoelomate. Now, we'll first talk about acoelomate. So, acoelomate are organisms which do not have coelom. So, here coelom is absent. Coelom is absent. The example is Platyhelminthes. Platyhelminthes and of course the diploblastic organism which are Coelenterata and Ctenophora. Okay. Now what happened in this case? For example, I have organism which is diploblastic. It will never have coelom. Why? Because there is a criteria. It should have a mesoderm. And diploblastic does not have a mesoderm. So they are already out. What about the triploblastic organism? Platyhelminthes. Platyhelminthes embryo looks just like that. It has ectoderm here. It has ectoderm here. It has here gut, endoderm, and then it has this layer known as mesoderm. So can you see any space here? I cannot see any space. So this organism is triploblastic but acoelomate. This organism is triploblastic but acoelomate, and here I am talking about Platyhelminthes. This is how Platyhelminthes look like. Okay. Now, what about these Coelenterata and Ctenophora? They will be having ectoderm and they will be having endoderm. But they do not have mesoderm because they are diploblastic. So here they will be having a layer of mesoglea. What is this layer? Mesoglea. So this mesoglea is non-cellular layer. It only contains gel-like fluid or some glycoproteins, but it does not have any mesoderm because Ctenophora and Coelenterata, they are what? They are diploblastic. They are diploblastic. Whereas this one have cellular layer, that is mesoderm, but that does not have any cavity or coelom. Okay. So these are example you know. Let's talk about pseudocoelomate. Okay, for that I'll use another page. Pseudocoelomate. Pseudo means false, guys. What does pseudo mean? Pseudo means false. So they have false coelom. How? Let's see. If this is the ectoderm, this is the endoderm. Okay. Now these organisms do have mesoderm. But here mesoderm is present in the form of pouches. So yes, there is a cavity, but is this cavity lined by mesoderm? No. So you call this body cavity as pseudocoelom. What will you call it as? Pseudocoelom. Because this is a cavity present between body wall and gut. This is ectoderm and this is endoderm. Right? But this does not have mesodermal lining. Rather, mesoderm is present in the form of mesodermal pouches. Mesodermal pouches. So this one is seen exclusively in Aschelminthes. Where it is seen? In the Aschelminthes. Okay. All right. What about the examples of eucoelom? Eucoelom you see in right from Annelida to Chordata. So from Annelida to Chordata, they all have eucoelom. Okay, so that's the body cavity which is really very important. All right. Let's move further. and talk about segmentation. Now, what is a segmentation? What is a segmentation? So, segmentation is the division of body in the form of segment, and you also call it as metamerism. You also call it as metamerism or true segmentation. But some organisms have false segmentation also. Some have false, F-A-L-S-E. So segmentation can be divided into two categories. One is false and other is true. The true segmentation is also known as metamerism. It is also known as metamerism. The body is truly divided into segment. In this one, this is the pseudo segmentation. False segmentation is known as pseudo segmentation. Now, why it is false, then the other is true. So, there are certain criteria for metamerism or true segmentation. Any organism, if its body is internally and externally segmented into segments, then it is segmented. Okay. For example, you must have seen Annelida. Let me give you an example. Earthworm. So its body is divided internally as well as externally into segments. So it's truly segmented. On the other hand, here in the pseudo segmented, internal segmentation is absent. Organism is only divided externally. Example, tapeworm. Okay. Second criteria of segmentation, that there should be repetition of organs. Repetition of organs. That means there are number of organs and they are repeating. Let me give you an example of us. We are also segmented. You heard it, right? We have ribs. Ribs are repeating. So that means we also come under the category of true segmentation. So here, what are the organisms? Annelida, they are also segmented truly. Arthropoda, they are also truly segmented, and Chordata, they are also truly segmented. Okay, so all these organisms are the example of your true segmentation. All right, let's move further. Let's move further and talk about the last criteria of classification, that's notochord. Any organism which have this notochord, is a chordate. Or which do not have is a non-chordate. What is the notochord? Again, there is a suspense. Okay, I will not tell you now, otherwise all your things will go wrong. Okay, I will keep the suspense and I'll tell you in the chordates what a notochord is. Okay, so what are non-chordates? Right from Porifera to Chordata, to Hemichordata. They are all non-chordates. They all are what? Non-chordates. So these were all the bases of classification. Let's have an overview of them. There is a chart given in NCERT, which we have done half of it already. Let's talk about this chart completely. So we say that animals, they are multicellular. The kingdom Animalia and the organisms are multicellular. Very true. Now, let's classify them on the basis of level of organization. There are certain with the cellular level of organization, the cells are loosely aggregated, they are poriferans. Then there are certain with tissue, organ or organ system level of organization. There, another criteria is there that they have symmetry. Some have radial symmetry, some have bilateral. In the radial symmetry, we have Coelenterata and Ctenophora. The bilateral are divided again on the basis of coeloms. Some are acoelomate like Platyhelminthes, pseudocoelomate like Aschelminthes, and eucoelomate, all these. But there is one thing that's different. This Echinodermata have a radial symmetry. This Echinodermata have radial symmetry, right? So here we have done the radial symmetry and I have written Echinodermata. So this is only exception. Okay, so Echinodermatas, they have radial symmetry. So this is very important. Just this is for the quick revision if we want to see what organism belongs to which phylum and you know what type of organization they have. Okay, all right. So that's about your basis of classification. Now we are going to talk about first phylum, that is your Porifera. So why it got its name Porifera? So the name Porifera comes from pore bearing. Pore bearing and they looks like sponges, because sponges, they also have pores. Sponges also have pores, so they belongs to this category, right? They are pore bearing. Okay, so first of all, where do you find this organism? They are mostly marine, except Spongilla. Spongilla is one such organism that is fresh water sponge. That is freshwater sponge. Marine water is the salty water that you find in seas and ocean, whereas fresh water is the water that you find in the ponds, lakes, or the rivers, which do not have much salt content. Okay, then they have a very special thing, that is a water transport or canal system. Let's talk about their body now. If I draw a body of a poriferan, how does it looks like? So this is how they are. They are sessile organism. What are sessile? They cannot move. They are attached to substratum. For example, this is something like a rock, like some stem of a plant. So they are attached to substratum because they are sessile animals. These are sessile animals. Okay, all right. All right, now, so if you'll see, its body have a number of pores. Its body have a number of pores. Let me draw the pores for you. The body have number of pores like this. Okay. So these pores are very much important for them because they are forming a system known as water canal system. Okay, so there are certain pores. These pores are known as ostia. What do you call them as? Ostia. These are in pores or inlet pores. From here the water will enter inside the poriferan, and this is one single pore, that is osculum. This is for exit or outlet. It acts as outlet. The water will move outside from this pore. Okay, so let's see how water moves. Water will move from these pores inside this cavity, and the name of the cavity is spongocoel. The name of the cavity is spongocoel. This cavity or spongocoel is lined by a very important characteristic cells known as collar cells. What cells? Collar cells, like this. What are these cells? Collar cells. So the spongocoel or the cavity of the sponges, they are lined by what cell? The characteristic cells, which are collar cells, also known as choanocytes. These cells, they generate a water current because they have these flagella-like structure. They have a flagella-like structure, so they generate water current. Okay, now this system where the pores are leading to the inlet of water and some canals are formed. These are canals. This is a pore, this will be canal. This will be a pore, this will be a canal. Okay, so that's why you call this system as water canal or water transport. So one and the same thing, do not get confused. Okay, water transport system. One more system is there, that is in the echinodermate, that is water vascular system. Now what's the purpose? Because water is entering, so it will be carrying some food. Okay, so it will help in the capture of food. And if the water is coming, it must be having the oxygen, so it also helps in respiration, and it will take away the CO2, and it also helps in excretion. And third, it can also help in reproduction. It can also help in reproduction. The water may contain some gametes from the other poriferans. Fine. So this is how body looks like. Now on the external side of the body, some spicules are present. In Hindi you call them as scante. Some spicules are present, and along with the spicules, some fibers are present. They are spongin fibers. What are these spongin fibers? So we say that they do have the exoskeleton. An exoskeleton is made up of, this skeleton is exoskeleton, and this is made up of spicules and spongin fiber, and that will provide it protection. Next point, the digestion is intracellular. What is intracellular and what is extracellular digestion? Okay, let me explain you. So there are two types of digestion. One is intracellular and another is extracellular. Okay, now in the intracellular digestion, this is a cell, and this cell will take food inside it. It will take food molecule inside it and digest it. Okay. In the extracellular, this is a cell and this is a food present outside in a cavity, and it will secrete the enzyme and the digestion will take place outside the cell. So that is extracellular. Intracellular means inside the cell. Digestion will take place inside the cell, and extracellular digestion will take place outside the cell. That's the difference. Okay. So poriferans, they show which type of digestion? Intracellular. Because they don't have, a stomach-like structure. They do have this cavity known as spongiocele, but that's not a true cavity. They're very simple. They do not even have tissues. So that's why every cell will take up the food, and this is how the digestion takes place. Okay, and which cell? Not the body cell. There are special cells present. All right. Next, they are hermaphrodite, also known as bisexual, also known as monoecious. What is bisexual or hermaphrodite or monoecious? That means one organism have both type of organs, both sexes in one organism. Okay, all right. The fertilization is internal, and they show both sexual and asexual reproduction. What is sexual? Where gametes are formed and they will get fused. What is asexual? The gametes are not formed. In asexual, either they can undergo fragmentation or internal budding. Now, what is fragmentation? Like small part of the body got destroyed and it will form a new organism. Right? And what is internal budding? For example, you must have done external budding in yeast, where the organism will break up and form new organism. But here the buds are formed inside the body. The buds are formed inside the body. Inside the body. Okay? All right. Indirect development. What is indirect development? Development is of two types. One is direct, another is indirect. In the indirect development, larva is formed. For example, I say we human shows direct development. Were we any larva at some stage? No, we were produced, we give birth, right? Or we say, when we entered on the earth, we were present in the form of small human. We were not larva. So here larval stages are present. So any organism which shows larval stages in its development, just like cockroach, they show indirect development. Okay, let's see the example. First of all, you can see this one. This is a freshwater sponge known as Spongilla. This one is Cycon, also known as Scypha. And this one, it looks like a bath sponge. So it is Euspongia. Bath sponge. Okay. So how to learn them? Cycon, Scypha, they are easy to learn because they have similar kind of names. Spongilla is a sponge, so that means it's a poriferan, freshwater. And Euspongia, U means you take bath daily, so you bath sponge. Simple. Okay, that's about poriferan, guys. Let's talk about Coelenterata. Coelenterata is also known as Cnidaria. Okay, why do it get its name Coelenterata? Because they have a cavity, a true cavity known as coelentron. The another name of that cavity is gastrovascular cavity. Gastro, as it's also written here, yeah, gastrovascular cavity. It's a true cavity, unlike that of poriferans, because here the digestion will takes place. And then it's a cnidaria because they have a special cells known as cnidocytes. They have a special cells known as cnidocyte. Guanocytes in poriferans, cnidocytes in Coelenterata. All right, so these organisms are mostly marine except Hydra. Hydra is freshwater. Hydra is seen in freshwater. Fine. Okay, let's talk about their body first and then we'll talk about their habit. So if you'll see the body of Hydra, you'll see a mouth here, which is present on this swelling-like structure known as hypostome, and this is a body which is attached to the substratum. So here you got to know there are certain organisms in Coelenterata which are sessile, which cannot move. Okay, and then they have these structures on the mouth known as tentacles. What are these? Tentacles. All right, let me label this up. This is mouth. This swelling-like structure where mouth is present is hypostome, and these structures are tentacles. Inside the body is present a cavity known as gastrovascular cavity. Alright, now these tentacles in mouth, they have a characteristic cells known as cnidocytes, also known as cnidoblast, also known as stinging cells. Stinging means Hindi में बोले तो डसना. In Hindi, if we say, that means dasna. Ye daste hain, right? So if you have heard, if you already live around beach area, you must have heard that jellyfish stings. It have a poison that causes a lot of allergies, right? So it's true. Jellyfish belongs to Coelenterata. So they have certain cells known as stinging cells. They will release a poison, and that it's a kind of a phenomenon which is a defense phenomenon for the organism. Okay, so what are the function of these cell? First, as I've told you, defense. Second, it helps them to anchorage on the surfaces, right? If they have to stick to any surface, they will use these sticky cells known as stinging cells. And then capture of prey or food, because for example, this is a hydra. And if any organism is moving around it, it will use its tentacle and sting it. And the organism will die, and it will then eventually eat this one. Okay. So how does they look like? If you see in NCERT, this is how they are formed, or they are drawn. Alright, so this is how it looks like. So it has this capsule-like structure known as nematocyst. Nematocyst, because these cnidoblast or cnidocyte, they are also known as nematocytes. They also have one more name. Okay, but nematocyst, there is a very small difference in the name. You can get confused if you'll read in the hurry in the exam. Nematocyst is a capsule in a nematocyte. Okay, and this is a nucleus. And from here it will release the toxin. Here it will release the toxin. This is butt. This is uncoiled cell. This is uncoiled cell. So if anyone touches to this structure, it will uncoil and release its poison. Okay, all right. So here is a small structure known as cnidocyl, a spine-like structure. So for example, you touch the jellyfish. So you have stimulated its cnidocyl. This cnidocyl will causes uncoiling of this structure, and then it will release the poison. Okay, all right guys. So let's talk about their habit now. So this organism, they can be solitary or they can be colonial. Also, these organisms, they can be sessile or they can be free swimming. They can be free swimming. Okay. So free swimming means they can easily move here and there, just like your jellyfish. Alright. And the organisms which are sessile, like sea anemone and hydra. Sea anemone, it is attached to the substratum, it cannot move. Okay. Then solitary means they live alone, just like jellyfish. Okay. Then colonial, they are present in the form of groups. They are present in groups, like your obelia and physalia. So all these organisms, they are always present in the groups. All right. Okay. Let's see some other characters. The digestion is both intra and extracellular, and they form or they have a skeleton of calcium carbonate. So you must have seen corals. So when these organisms, they die, they form corals which are made up of calcium carbonate, okay, in the sea. And then they have a two types of body. So you can see some, like this is jellyfish, this is sea anemone. This is sea anemone, and this is the jellyfish. The scientific name of jellyfish is Aurelia. So you can see this is in the form of organism that's free swimming, and you call this body form as Medusa. And then you can see this one, this is the sessile, and that body form is known as polyp. There are certain organisms, they are born as Medusa, they will die as Medusa, like jellyfish. There are some that are born as polyp and they will die as polyp, like sea anemone and hydra. But there are certain organisms, in half of their life, they will live as polyp, and half of the life they will live as Medusa. So three categories, either Medusa or polyp, and the third one, half Medusa, half polyp. How? Let's see. So there are certain organisms, they act as Medusa and polyp form. For example, when they are polyp, they will undergo asexual reproduction and they will form a lot of medusae. And when they are medusae, they will undergo sexual reproduction and they will form polyp, right? They will form polyp. Also in their sexual reproduction, they have larval stages. So we can say that they also undergo indirect development. They also undergo indirect development. So this alternation of generation, where half of the life they are polyp, half of the life they are medusa, this is known as metagenesis. What is metagenesis? Alternation in generation. Alternation in generation. So it is seen in Coelenterata. And what Coelenterata shows your metagenesis? One is your Obelia and another is your Physalia. They both shows alternation in generation. Let's see the other organisms that belongs to this phylum. First is Physalia, Portuguese man of war. P for Portuguese, P for Physalia. Adamsia, C anemone. A for Adamsia, A for anemone. Penetula, C pen. P-E-N, P-E-N. Gorgonia is C fan. Meandrina is brain coral. What is mean? Not the mathematics or stat means. Mean means someone who is selfish. And how are you selfish? Are you selfish by brain or heart? You're always selfish by brain. Your heart never makes you selfish. So brain coral. Okay. Gorgonia, sea fan. Who's Georgina? Georgina is the wife of that football player Ronaldo, right? So people are fan of Georgina. So Gorgonia, sea fan. And what is Obelia? Obelia is sea fur. Obelia is sea fur. Aurelia is jellyfish. Alright, so that's about the Coelenterata. Let's talk about the Ctenophora. So Ctenophora, they're commonly known as sea walnuts or comb jellies because they look like that, like a walnut. They also have these two tentacles, as you can see, but they're different from the tentacles of Hydra. And one thing that you can see here, these green color structures, they are comb plates. What are these? These structures, they are comb plates. These comb plates, they are ciliated. That means they have cilia. They have cilia on them like that. And if it has cilia, definitely it will help it to move. It helps them to locomote. It helps in locomotion. Okay. All right. Next. So they are exclusively marine. They are exclusively marine. You will not find any freshwater ctenophore. Alright. Then they have complates. Digestion is same like Coelenterata, intracellular and extracellular. Radial symmetry is also found in the both one, as we have discussed in basis of classification. And also they show bioluminescence. They emit light. They have certain protein. They emit light, just like we say like jugnu. Jugnu, you know what is jugnu in Hindi? Do you know that? So they emit light, okay. Alright, then they only show sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is exclusively absent. They are also hermaphrodite. Fertilization is external. Guys, what is external fertilization? That takes place in the outside environment. Poriferans shows internal fertilization. That means inside the body. Ciliatrates have external, these they also have external. That means in the outside, outside in water. What is fertilization? Fusion of male and female gamete. Development is indirect because they do have larva. What are the example? Pleurobrachia and Ctenophora. Ctenophora is simple. Like your Ctenoplana, right? This is, I think, this is Ctenoplana. That's a typo error. So please excuse me for that. So Ctenoplana is from Ctenophora. That's simple. And second, you have Pleurobrachia. What do you have? Pleurobrachia. Okay. Also, these cells, they have a balancing organ known as statocyst. So statocysts are nothing. They are cell-like. They help in balance. Because they are round structure, they may do like that, right? They may get disbalanced. So they have for balancing statocyst. Okay. All right, so let's move further and talk about your favorite Platyhelminthes, also known as flatworms. Why are they flatworms? Why do you call them as flatworms? Because their body is dorsoventrally flattened, just like that. The body is dorsoventrally flattened. They are endoparasite. What are endoparasite? Parasite that lives inside body. For example, leech. Leech is ectoparasite. It lives outside your body. And these one lives inside your body. So they are endoparasite. So because they're parasite, so they will be having some parasitic adaptation. Adaptation means they have adapted themselves so that they will become a good parasite and they can survive inside our body. How? They have hooks and suckers. Hooks and suckers help them to encourage and suck food. So suckers work is encourage and to suck food, whereas hooks only function is encourage. Okay. Absorbs food directly through their body surface. That means gut is absent. They will directly absorb food like this. If there is a nutrient, it will directly absorb it through its body. So these two are what, guys? These two are parasitic adaptation. These two are parasitic adaptations. Now, how do they excrete? They excrete through flame cell. Very important. Do not forget this. Flame cells are the very important cells of Platyhelminthes that work in both excretion and osmoregulation. What is osmoregulation? Salt water balance. Then we have, they are also sexual. Hermaphrodite. That means they are bisexual. They also show internal fertilization. Internal fertilization is also a kind of parasitic adaptation because external fertilization have less probability of fertilization, whereas internal have more chances for fertilization. So always parasite wants to grow. They want to increase their population. This is how they will be better from the host because the competition is going on. So internal fertilization. Indirect development, it have a number of larvae. So there is one organism in Platyhelminthes, its name is Planaria. It shows the power of regeneration. That means it shows asexual reproduction. Okay. Example, we have three example: Planaria, Taenia and Fishola. Taenia is a tapeworm and Fishola is a liver fluke. Fine. Okay. Next organism we have is Aschelminthes. They are commonly known as roundworms, but they do not seem like roundworm. They are cylindrical. You call them as roundworm because when you will take the cross section, imagine this is a roundworm. If I take the cross section, they will appear circular. They will appear circular in the cross section. So they are roundworm. They can be aquatic, terrestrial, or they can also be parasitic, and they are mostly endoparasitic. They can be parasite to animals and they can be parasite to plants as well. They can be parasite to plants or they can be parasite to animals, both. Okay. There are certain free living forms also. What are free living? One is free living. Another is free swimming. Free swimming is which can swim easily. Living, who is not parasitic. Excretion takes place through the excretory pore, right? Alimentary canal is complete with muscular pharynx. For example, this is the mouth. So this mouth will be having a pharynx here that will help in the pumping of food, sucking of food. Okay. And how does excretion take place? Like flame cells are present in Platyhelminthes, they have H cells or rennet cell. The difference is flame cells are in a lot number. There are many flame cells. H cell is a single cell. It will be present in the body. These will be its tubes, excretory tubes, and this will open through this excretory pore. Okay, so that's why we say the excretory tubes are present. They are dioecious, as you can see. This one is a female Ascaris. Ascaris is one example, one organism that is a roundworm, and this is a male one. So they are dioecious. They also show sexual dimorphism. What is sexual dimorphism? That means you can identify them whether they are male or female just by looking at their morphology or how do they look like. Like here you can see the female is longer, the male is shorter. Male have this curved posterior end. Female have the straight end. So these are the features that can identify them into male and female. Okay. All right. Sexual reproduction is there. Internal fertilization because they are parasites. Indirect or direct, both type of fertilization can take place. Indirect, that means there will be a larva. Okay. All right. Example is Ascaris, the roundworm, Wuchereria, filaria worm, and Chylostoma, the hookworm. This is a very dangerous one. Also, there are other organisms like Enterobius. That is a pinworm. Alright, Wuchereria causes elephantiasis or filariasis. That's a disease. So you must have seen people which have large legs, swollen legs. They have a disease known as elephantiasis. We'll be doing this in the class 12th in detail. Okay. Alright. Next, we have Annelida. Annelida word comes from annulus. Annulus means ring. So since annelids, they are segmented organism. Every segment looks like a ring. So they got their name from their annulus, Annelida. Okay, you can see here one segment look like a complete ring. So these organisms can be aquatic, terrestrial, or parasite. Aquatic, we have two types of water. One is a marine water, another is a fresh water. In fresh water, you see leech, like in ponds and lakes. Okay. And in marine water, you find nereis, the one that is present here. And that one is leech. Okay. They are terrestrial, like we have earthworm. And then we have ectoparasite, that is leech. Okay. They are metamerically segmented, that we have already discussed. How do they move? They move with the help of muscles, like longitudinal and circular muscles. They have circular and longitudinal muscles in skin, and that helps to all the organisms to move. But apart from that, nereis also have parapodia. So parapodia, they helps in respiration as well as locomotion. Okay, let me show you where parapodias are. These are nothing. These are the extensions of skin. Because the respiration in annelids is through skin, and they are also extension of skin. So they will also help in respiration. So respiration is, guys, cutaneous. What is respiration mode here? Cutaneous. That is through skin. Okay. Next. They have closed circulatory system, and for excretion they have nephridia. Excretion in Platyhelminthes, flame cell. Excretion in the Aschelminthes, H cells, which have tubes and they excrete through pore. Excretion in Annelida, nephridia. Okay. Their neural system is present in the form of ganglion connected by lateral nerves to a double ventral nerve cord. Okay, let me tell you how. So, for example, this is a ganglion. These ganglions are connected to each other, and then there will be double ventral nerve cord. So ganglion connected by the lateral nerves. So these are lateral nerves, and this is double ventral nerve cord. Double means two. Nerve cord. And ganglion is nothing. It is a group of neurons. Okay. Development, fertilization is sexual, and development is both direct and indirect. Direct or indirect development. Okay, direct development is seen in the leech and earthworm, whereas indirect is seen in Nereis with larva. So here we have example Nereis Ferretima hierodonaria. Hierodonaria is your leech. Ferretima is your earthworm. Okay, all right. Let's talk about the next phylum, that is the Arthropoda. Okay, let's get started. So from where did Arthropoda got its name? Just like any other phylum. So arthro means jointed. Poda means appendages. So organisms that belongs to this phylum, they have jointed appendages. They have joints in their appendages. That's why they can run very fast, just like cockroach, right? So if we'll say which is the largest phylum, arthropod, and 2 by 3 species on this planet Earth, they are arthropods. There are many number. You can find them everywhere. See the air, you will see mosquitoes flying. Down on the floor, you can see ants, right? On some crevices, you may find cockroaches. So in go to water, you can find prawns, right? So you can, find them anywhere. So they are metamerically segmented and the body is divided into head, thorax and abdomen. So the body is divided into, like, this is your organism. Okay, take an example of this. This is quite easy. So the body is divided into head, thorax, abdomen, 3 parts. Okay, mostly, especially in the insects. The exoskeleton is made up of chitin. Open circulatory system is there, and for excretion we have Malpighian tubule. So Malpighian tubules are for the excretion in the insect, right? Okay. So let me tell you what are the excretory organs for various organisms. Like we have Malpighian tubule. So this is exclusively for insect. And insects, we have mosquitoes, bees, cockroach, right? Honeybees, everything is in the insecta. Whereas the green glands, also known as antennal glands, are present in the prawn, in the antenna of prawns. Okay, and also we have one gland known as coxal gland, that is in the spiders. Coxal gland in the spiders and scorpions. Scorpions and spiders. Fine. All right. So let's see about the respiration. So those organisms that live in water, like prawns, they respire through gills. Book gills, who respire through book gills? We have a crab known as limulus. If you can see here, limulus respire, this limulus. Okay, let me write it here. It respire through book gills. Book lungs are for spiders, and tracheal system is for insects. Okay, we have done that in cockroach as well. For sense organ, they have antennae, eyes and statocyst. Eyes are usually compound eyes. Okay, then reproduction is sexual. They will produce gametes and that will fuse. Dioecious, that means there will be one male and female. If you remember, in the cockroach, there was a male cockroach and there was a female cockroach. Internal fertilization, they lay eggs, they are oviparous. The development can be direct as well as indirect. Mostly it's indirect. Only one case is there which shows direct development, that is lepisma. Lepisma is silverfish. It does not produce larva. Straight away small silverfishes comes out, right? So this lepisma is a silverfish. It's not a fish, it is an arthropod. So where do you find it? So you must have seen your old books or your old clothes have a very small white silvery color insect, that is a silverfish. Okay, let us explore all the example. First, economically important insect. That means you are using them, you are exploiting them for your purpose, economic purpose, for producing products. First is apis, the honeybee. Obviously, why do we rear honeybee? We rear honeybee for honey and bee wax. Bee wax is used for making candles, cosmetics, and so honey is used as a sweetener. Also, it is used in the medicines. Then we have bombyx, silkworm, from where you get the silk, and silk is a type of fabric and we make clothes out of it. Then lessifer is a lark insect. We make lark bangles from that, right? Vectors. What are vectors? Vectors are someone which are acting as vehicles and helps to, transport a pathogen from one organism to another. You must have heard that malaria occurs by the biting of mosquito. Dengue occurs due to biting of a mosquito. So they are vectors. So we have Anopheles. Anopheles is the one that causes malaria. Culex causes elephantiasis, the one we have done in the elephantiasis, the one we have done in the roundworms. So the pathogen is a roundworm, but who is transporting that roundworm from one animal to another? That is your Culex mosquito. And Aedes causes dengue. Then we have gregarious pest. What is gregarious? Gregarious, that means it comes in the groups. So that's a locust or locust. When there was a lockdown of, I guess, 2020, at that time, they came from Pakistan, and they were a lot in number in the North India, right? And what's the habit? They always come in group and destroy the entire field and crops, right? So that is locust or locust. And then we have a living fossil, that is limulus, okay? Then we have a living fossil, as you can see here, limulus, which is the king crab. What is a living fossil? That means it is living, but from many years, no evolution has been taken place in that organism. No evolution have been taken place. So that's a king crab. You call it as limulus. Okay. That's it about the Arthropoda, guys. Let's move further and talk about the another phylum, that's Mollusca. Okay. And Mollusca, again, how does it got its name? From mollis. Mollis means soft body. If you have seen snail or octopus, they have a very soft body, right? Have you seen snail? Have you seen that oyster? Inside the oyster is present a very, soft, skin or something like that. So from there they got the name, because they all have a very soft body. So they got the name Mollusca. So these organisms, it is first of all second largest phylum. The first largest was Arthropoda. They can be aquatic, they can be found in water like your octopus, terrestrial like snail, and parasitics as well. So they are unsegmented. Segmentation was seen in Arthropoda, Annelida, and Chordata. Body is covered by calcareous shell. So if you can see this, this is the pearl oyster, and it is present in two shell, right? And or you have seen snail, it also have this shell. This is what shell is. The body of a mollusk is divided into head, visceral hump, and muscular foot. Can you see that? Okay, if it's not clear, let me draw a very quick diagram for you, the one we used to draw in the, school. So the body is divided into head, visceral hump, and muscular foot, like this. Okay, the head have stalked eyes like this, and also very these long or even small antennae. And this is the mouth. This is the mouth. The mouth have a fine file-like rasping organ, which is made up of chitin, that is radula. The function of radula is to chew things, is to cut things. Okay. So let me just repeat it. This is visceral hump. Visceral hump. Why it is known as a visceral hump? Because it contains all the visceral organ. Because it contains all the visceral organ, right? And this is muscular foot. It helps to walk. And this is head. And this head have mouth. And mouth contains radula. And then they have these stalked eyes. That means they are not present on the head, rather there is a small stalk-like structure, and then they have eyes. Also, what are present here? Antennae. Now, on the visceral hump is present a small epithelium known as mental. And there is a cavity between the mental and the body wall. This is mental cavity. What is mental? Mental is the epithelium. This is a protective epithelium. This is a protective epithelium that secretes shell. And shell is present outside, so they have exoskeleton. And shell is made up of calcium carbonate. Shell is made up of calcium carbonate. Okay, so this is the shell. Shell is made up of calcium carbonate. So shell It's made up of calcium carbonate, calcareous shell. Now, in the mental cavity, a hair or a feather-like structure is present like this. The name of this structure is ctenidia. The function of ctenidia is they are like gills and they help in both respiration as well as excretion. They helps in respiration as well as excretion. Fine guys, let's explore more feature of mollusca. So the body is divided into head, okay, head, muscular foot and visceral hump. Anterior head have sensory tentacles. So these antenna, they are also known as sensory tentacles. Sometimes they are also known as sensory tentacles. And yes, they are sensory because they have sense organs or sensory cells or receptors that can judge the things in surrounding, like olfaction and so. Alright, the mouth contains a file-like rasping organ for feeding, that is radula. They are dioecious, one male, one female. Oviparous, what is oviparous? That they will lay eggs. They will lay eggs. Okay, they will lay eggs. In direct development, there will be some larval stages. Let's learn their names. First, we have pila. Pila is apple snail. We have pea in apple. We have pea in pila. Pink tedda. Pink tedda pearl oyster. You know, pearls are also pink in color. You know that? Now you know, you will never forget. Pink tedda pearl oyster. Then sepia. Sepia is cuttlefish. Loligo is squid. Octopus is devilfish. Devil, who is the devil? Who is very bad, right? And octopus also looks very bad sometimes. So octopus is devilfish. Sepia. Sepia is the cuttlefish. Then we have aplysia. Aplysia is sea hare. Dentalium is tusk shell. Chetoplura is chiton. You know, dentalium white is known as tusk shell because its shell looks like the tusk of elephant. So this is how its shell is, like this. Okay, this is its foot here. So this is how it looks like. And Chetoplura, C and C or CH, you can just remember it from here. Okay, all right. So that's about the mollusca, guys. Let's talk about Echinodermata. If I talk about Echinodermata, what does it means? What does it means? Echino. Echino means spine. Derma means skin. So echino means spine. Derma means skin. So they are spiny skinned animals. They have spines on their skin. So if you'll see these organisms, you will find the spines. Let me draw its skin. Okay. So imagine this is the skin. This is dermis layer and this is the epidermis. So on the outer surface, you can see these small echines. What you can see here? Echine. And in the dermis, you can also see these plates of calcium carbonate. So these are ossicles. These ossicles, they are made up of calcium carbonate, and since they are present inside the body, so this is the first phylum to have endoskeleton. You know, if you have seen, every organism was having the exoskeleton. We'll start it from Porifera. They have spicules and spongin fibers outside the body. Then we'll talk about the Ctenophora. They didn't have something like that. If we talk about the Coelenterata, even they didn't have. If we talk about the Platyhelminthes, they had hooks and suckers as skeleton. Again, they are outside the body. If we talk about Aschelminthes, they don't have exoskeleton. If I talk about Annelida, they don't have. If I talk about the Arthropoda, they have chitinous exoskeleton. You must have learned this in the cockroach as well. And now if I talk about the mollusca, they also have exoskeleton made up of calcium carbonate, the great shell. Okay, but here the endoskeleton is present now because the calcium carbonate plates known as ossicles. What are these plates? They are present in plates form. They are present inside the skin. This is the skin. So they are showing endoskeleton. Okay, all right, guys. So here endoskeleton is present of calcareous shell, and they are exclusively marine. There are certain fibers that are exclusively marine. Right now we have done one phylum that is Ctenophora, that was exclusively marine. Now we have Echinodermata. In all the phylum that we have studied till now, they all have freshwater forms also. Porifera have spongilla, Coelenterata have Hydra, Ctenophora is completely marine. Then Platyhelminthes, it is also on terrestrial land, right? And Aschelminthes also. Then Annelida, they have freshwater form leech. If I talk about Arthropoda, they are also in freshwater, like you have fleas, they are in the freshwater. And if I talk about Mollusca, they also have some freshwater forms, some snails. And then we have phylum Echinodermata. They do not have any freshwater form. They are exclusively marine, right? Next, they are radially symmetrical, but larvae are bilaterally symmetrical. So the adults of Echinodermates, they show radial symmetry, but larvae, they still have bilateral symmetry. Okay. Then digestive system is complete. Mouth is on the ventral side, anus is on the upper side. So if ever there is an organism, and if we want to state which side is the dorsal and which is the ventral side, there is a very simple criterion. What is that? For example, this is an organism and this is the seabed. For example, if I say the starfishes, they are found in the marine water, obviously there is a seabed. They are bottom dwellers. What are these organisms? Bottom dwellers. What are bottom dwellers? Which are found in the bottom of the sea, and they will be present on seabed. So for example, this is starfish and this is present on the or sitting on the seabed like that. So this portion which is facing the seabed or the sand, this portion is the ventral side and this will be the dorsal side. Just in case of the organism like dogs, any part of the body that faces the land, that is a ventral side. And we are now bipedal. Earlier we were not bipedal, we used to walk like a dog. So this side was facing the land, so this is a ventral, that's why this one is our dorsal side. Okay, so here also the mouth is on the lower surface, that is a ventral side, and anus is on the upper side, that is a dorsal side. Okay, then water vascular system is present. Water canal or transport system is a feature of poriferans, whereas vascular system is a feature of your echinodermates. So there are also canals present here throughout the body that will bring the water and circulate it in the body. That will bring the water, circulate it in the body. As a result, it will help in locomotion, capture and transport of food, and in fact respiration, just like that of transport system. Okay, then what's the difference? It's a vascular system because it is moving like that of a blood, but their organism is very simple, so you can't compare it with the blood. Okay. Excretory system is exclusively absent. Yes, whatever excretion is, it will be taken out by water vascular system or via diffusion. They show dioecious condition, that means there is one male, another female. Hermaphrodite, monoecious, bisexual is that both sex organ in one. Dioecious means there is one male and one female. They are separate. Indirect development, there will be a lot of larvae. External fertilization in water, that is outside the body. Let's see the example. Asterias is starfish. Aster means star. Astrology is the study of stars, right? Echinus, sea urchin. Okay, it has in, it also have in, or hin. Okay, anti-dawn, sea lily. So lily is the dawn of sea. Lily is the dawn of sea. Sea lily. Okay. Cucumeria, sea cucumber, simple. Ophiora is a brittle star. This one you can remember if you know the rest of them. Okay. All right. So let's move further and talk about the another phylum, that's Hemichordata. So hemi means half, chordata is chordate. So it is considered as half chordate. So it has a history. This phylum is also known as Stomochordata. Stomochordata. Why? Because it has a rod-like structure known as stomachode. So earlier this stomachode was considered as notochord. This stomachode earlier was considered as notochord, and these organisms or this phylum was kept under chordates. So it was considered a chordata. But now when they got to know this is not the true notochord, it is just another rod known as stomochord, so they kept them in the non-chordates as a separate phylum. Okay, earlier it was in the chordates, but now the discovery happened, and they saw that that's a stomachode, not a notochord. Fine. Just like that of Ctenophora and Echinodermata, they are also exclusively marine and they are worm-like. You can see here the diagram, they look like a worm. The body is divided into proboscis, collar, and trunk. Okay, so if it is not clear, this is proboscis, this is collar, and this portion is trunk, right? So proboscis have a gland known as proboscis gland, and the function of this proboscis gland is in excretion. Okay, it's in excretion. Then collar and then trunk. Trunk have the gills, it have gills, and it also have the gonads. All right. Okay. So cylindrical body, anterior proboscis, collar, and a long trunk. Circulation is open type, and yes, they do have gills. So here you can find the gills. These are gills, and gills helps in, you all know, respiration. Excretion by proboscis gland, and yes, they are also dioecious, male and female. So Arthropoda was dioecious, right? And you can say Mollusca. In Mollusca, both the body forms are present, both dioecious and monoecious. Okay, in NCERT it is written it is dioecious, but both forms are present. But if the question is asked in the NEET, you go for dioecious because it's mentioned in NCERT. All right. Then Echinodermata is also dioecious. So right from Arthropoda, every organism is dioecious, 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 dioecious. Okay. So here, indirect development, larva will be there, and external fertilization, because they live in water, they will show external. Basically, 99% organisms that live in water, they show external fertilization, except Porifera and cartilaginous fishes. 99% of the organism that lives in water, they show external fertilization. That means fertilization in the water, except Porifera and cartilaginous fishes. Porifera and cartilaginous fishes both show internal fertilization. Okay. All right. And internal fertilization is basically a character of land animals. So 99% of the land animals, they show internal fertilization, except earthworm. Earthworm shows external fertilization. Yeah, write this down in copy. Okay. All right, guys. So this was about the fertilization part. Next example is Balanoglossus or Saccoglossus, and both they are known as tongue worm, because their body, it looks like a tongue. It looks like a tongue. Okay. All right. So let's move further and talk about chordata. So now we are going towards complex. Chordata is known as a chordata because they have this structure known as notochord. What is it? It is mesodermal in origin. It is mesodermal in origin, dorsally present, and it is rod-like, and it provides support. Exactly, if we see where it is present, you can see here, this is a nerve cord, this is a notochord, and this is the gut. This is a gut. So it is present between nerve cord and gut. Gut is GIT, intestinal tract, right? Okay, let me drink some water. Okay, nerve cord. All right, nerve cord. So like in the non-chordates, the nerve cord, if you have seen in the annelids, it was double ventral. Also in cockroach, we have discussed it is double ventral, right? So nerve cord in human or in the chordates, so compare it with our spinal cord. Compare it with our spinal cord. So our spinal cord was single, so it has been formed from nerve cord only. It is single. Ventral or dorsal? Dorsal, because this side is dorsal side. This side is ventral side. So this is single dorsal hollow. So if you remember, there is an empty space in our spinal cord, which is central canal, and that contains CSF. So our spinal cord is hollow, so it has been formed from nerve cord. Okay. So then we have in the chordates these gill slits. They are in pharynx. In pharynx. So you call them as pharyngeal gill slits. So having gill slits or having gills, Just listen to me. Having gills is a feature of even the non-chordates, but having gill slits in the pharynx is a feature of the chordates. What are gill slits? The opening of gills. If they're present in the pharynx region, that means the organism is a chordate. Okay. Then we have this post-anal tail. If this is anus, after anus, whatsoever is the extension of body, that is known as post-anal tail. And then the last thing to note, ventral heart. Ventral heart. So ventral heart is also the feature of the chordates. Let's compare it with the non-chordates. Okay. So, in the chordates, notochord is present. In the non-chordates, it is the absent. Here, CNS is dorsal, hollow and single. When they're talking about CNS, that means they're talking about nerve cord. Okay, whereas here it is ventral, solid and double, sometime ganglionated. Pharynx perforated by gill slits. Here, gill slits are absent. Gills can be present, but slits are absent. Heart is ventral, heart is dorsal. You have seen the heart of cockroach, it was dorsal. A post-anal tail is present, post-anal tail is not present. True tail is not present. Okay, so that's about, guys, your chordata. Let's have classification of it. The phylum Chordata is divided into two subgroups. It's divided into two subgroups. One is Acraniata or Protochordata, another is Craniata or Euchordata. Okay, what is Acraniata? In this one, cranium is absent. What is cranium? Brain box. In Hindi, you call it as khopdi. So this brain box is absent, and proto means primitive. So they are not highly developed chordates, they are very primitive chordates, right? So it is believed that after Hemichordata, if we see evolutionary, we have also kept the phylum one after the another in terms of their complexity plus evolution. So we believe that this is how evolution started. Animals earlier were poriferan-likes, and then the evolution took place and becomes the human, right? So we believe that first these Acraniata appears and then Craniata appears. So Craniata are the one which have cranium or brain box, and they are known as Euchordata. Now you tell me, what is eu? Eu means true. So they are true chordates. Okay, they have two subphylum under them. One is Urochordata. Euro means tail. Another is Cephalochordata. So why it is Urochordata? Because the notochord is not present in the entire body. In fact, it is not present in the adult. The notochord is present in the larval tail or in the tail of larva. So we say that organism, if it has notochord in any stage of life, whether it is embryonic stage or the adult stage, it will be kept under notochord. Like, do you have a notochord? No, you had it in the embryonic stages. Still you are in the in the chordates, right? So just like that, Urochordatas adult do not have a notochord. The notochord is present in larval tail. Notochord is present in larval tail. Okay, and here notochord is present from head to the tail. So cephalo means head, Cephalochordata. Okay, then we have subphylum Vertebrata. Now what happened? All these are chordates, all they have notochord, but in the vertebrate, the notochord is replaced by vertebral column. Like you have backbone. So here the notochord has been replaced by vertebral column. So that's why its name is Vertebrata. So notochord replaced by vertebral column. So that's why we say, there is a very famous line that we say, all vertebrates are chordates. Is it true? Very true. All vertebrates are chordates. So it is saying that all vertebrates are chordates. This is true. But all chordates are not vertebrates. This is also true. What it is saying? It is saying all chordates are not vertebrate. Very true, because these are not vertebrates. All right. So in this exam, NEET exam, this line was mentioned in one of the sentences, right? So these things are also important. So vertebrata is divided into two divisions, Anatha and Gnathostomata. In Anatha, jaw is absent. You heard it right, jaw, jabda. This jaw is absent. In Gnathostomata, jaw present. Then there is a class under Agnatha, that is Cyclostomata. They have a circular suctorial mouth. Then under this we have two superclasses. One is Pisces, which are of fishes, and then we have Tetrapoda. Tetra means four. They have 4 feet. Here we have Chondrichthyes, the cartilaginous fishes. Osteichthyes, the bony fishes. Here we have class Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves and mammals. So these are also class and these are also class. Okay, so that's why I have told you in chordates we have to do up to class level. All right, so let's get started with our first Urochordata and Cephalochordata. Okay, so we'll start with the subphylum. We'll start with our subphylum Urochordata. All right. So in the Urochordata, Uro means tail. So notochord will not persist throughout life. Notochord is in larval tail only. Larval tail only. Okay. So if you'll see this organism, they have, a very soft, slimy body, and because its body is covered by a coat or tunic, which is made up of tunicin, and tunicin is made up of a cellulose-like material. Okay, so if you'll see, the entire body is made up of a thick coat, and that is tunic or tunicin. That's why you also call it as tunicata. What do you call them as? Tunicata. Now, why these organisms are known as tunicates or tunicata? Because the body is covered by, a thick tunic made up of tunicin, and tunicin is cellulose-like. Okay, so here if you can see, the adults, they do not have a notochord. They cannot move, in fact, they are sessile. So here there is a thing that adults, they are sessile. Adults are sessile, they cannot move. Also, they have open circulatory system. Open circulatory system. They are bisexual and show external fertilization. Which fertilization? External fertilization. Development will be direct or indirect? Obviously indirect. We are talking about larva. Okay, so development is indirect. All right. So what are the examples we have in this phylum? We have Ascidia, we have Salpa, we have Doliolum, we have Herdmania. Okay. Now, what's the difference between the larva and the adult? Let's see. So if I say, here I'm writing larval characters and here I'm writing adult characters. Okay. So if we'll see, larva have tail, adult have no tail, or tail is absent. So it has tail, it can move, or it is motile or mobile or free swimming, and this one is sessile, it cannot move. This have notochord, this does not have notochord. So what do you think, which is more advanced? Larva. So this one is more advanced. So normally what we think, whenever larva converts into adult, we always think that adult will be better and more progressive, or we can say it's more advanced than the larva. We always believe that, because larva does not have good character, it is developing and it will form a great adult. But here opposite takes place. Here adult is more. Here adult is more advanced than the larva. So this kind of metamorphosis or development is known as retrogressive. Retro means behind. Rather than being progressive, we are going behind, that is retrogressive development or metamorphosis takes place. You know what is metamorphosis? A kind of development. We have done porometabolous type of development in cockroach. There I've told you metamorphosis means development. Okay, so this type of a development is seen in this case. Okay, all right. So let's talk about the subphylum Cephalochordata. So cephalochordates, that means cephalo means head. These animals will have notochord. These animals will have notochord in their entire life. Okay, it will start from the head and it will go till the tail. And here they have complete gut. That means the complete digestive system will be present here. Pharyngeal gill slit will be there. They will also have closed circulatory system, but though they have pharyngeal gill slits, but gills are not developed, so they will respire through diffusion through the body surface. Also, they will excrete through protonephridia. This is very important. This also we have done in the excretory system chapter. So here the paired fins, they are absent. You know what are fins? The one which are present in the fish. What are paired and unpaired fins? I will be telling you in detail in the fish. Okay, example, we have branchiostoma known as amphioxus. It is known as lens slit because it have sharp edges just like of lens slit. All right, that's about Cephalochordata. So Cephalochordata have closed circulatory system. Notochord will be there throughout the life. This is the most important point, notochord and excretion. This is the most important from where the question can be asked. 4 things that you need to remind here in this entire subphylum. First of all, it's a subphylum Cephalochordata, not a phylum, not a class. Second, what are the example and these 2 important features. Okay, all right. Next we have vertebrates. Now, what are vertebrates? We say in vertebrates, the notochord is replaced by vertebral column. Okay, so what we say, notochord is replaced by vertebral column. Now this vertebral column can be replaced incompletely or it can be replaced completely, or we can say the notochord can be replaced completely or it can be replaced incompletely. Okay, so the vertebral column, when, or we can say when the notochord is replaced completely, that means it has been replaced by a bone. If I say I have a bony vertebral column, that means the complete replacement of notochord has taken place. So any organism which have a bony vertebral column, their complete replacement of notochord has taken place. But there are certain organisms that have cartilaginous endoskeleton, not a bony one, and they also have cartilaginous vertebral column. So in these organisms, incomplete replacement has taken place. Incomplete replacement of notochord has taken place. That's why the notochord will always be there in their life. Notochord persists throughout life. Okay, so that means if this is a notochord, okay, and if the incomplete replacement have taken place, what would have happened? Only at some places the cartilage has wrapped the notochord, but in the bony one, the notochord have been destroyed and it has been completely changed by bony vertebral column like this. This is what it is. Okay, so Anatha, the one without jaw like Cyclostomata, and your cartilaginous fishes, Chondrichthyes, they have incompletely replaced notochord, or they have cartilaginous vertebral column, and they also have cartilaginous endoskeleton. Okay guys, all right. Okay, so let's talk about the other features of vertebrate. They also have heart. This heart can be 2, 3 or 4 chambered. They will always respire through their organs like the gills, or it can be lungs, or some many other ways. And they have kidneys for excretion. They are mostly dioecious. That means there is one male and another female. Bisexual will be seen very less. All right. So let's talk about the Anatha first. Anatha without jaw. And we have one example, that is Cyclostomata. In Anatha, we have one example, that is Cyclostomata. Okay, first of all, what's the difference between Anatha and Gnathostomata? In Anatha, the jaw is absent. In Gnathostomata, it is present. Okay. So first we have is cyclostomata. Cyclo means circular and stoma means mouth. Stomata looks like the mouth in the plants. So that's why they have got their name stomata. Okay. So here they are ectoparasite on some fishes. So you heard it true. There are certain large fishes to which small fishes are attached on their bottom surface. So these are basically your ectoparasites known as cyclostomes because they have circular suctorial mouth. What do they have? They have sucking and circular mouth without jaws. Suctorial or sucking, one and the same thing. Their body is elongated like a fish. 6 to 15 pair of gill slits are present. Pharyngeal gill slit for respiration. So they will respire through gills. Okay. Body is devoid of scales and paired fins. Devoid means absent. So it's a smooth body. Unlike that of fish, it does not have scales. Okay. And paired fins are also absent here. Cranium and vertebral column are cartilaginous, as we have already done. Anatha and cartilaginous fishes have cartilaginous skeleton. Closed circulatory system will be there throughout now, right from cephalochordate to end. Only urochordate had the open circulatory system. And also urochordates and cephalochordates, they are exclusively marine. So in marine we have, like we have done here. So these two, they are exclusively marine, these both. So in marine list, we have Ctenophora, Echinodermata, Hemichordata, now this Protochordata. Okay, all right. But if I talk about your cyclostomes, here we have cyclostomes. All right, these are also marine, but they go to freshwater, so you can't call them as exclusively marine. So they are basically migratory fishes, kind of, right? They are migratory. They are migratory. For example, this is ocean, this is sea, okay, and these are mountains, and from mountains comes the river, and river meet the sea like this. This water is fresh water and this water is marine water. So the adult cyclostomes, they will go to this fresh water and give eggs, and here adults die. After giving eggs, the adult die. Now these one, when they will grow up, they will come back into the water and becomes adult. Now they will go to the water and they will die. So we say that the life cycle starts in the fresh water and ends in the fresh water. Like one adult today goes to the fresh water, lay eggs, and it will die there. Now from that eggs, the larva will be formed, and then they will come here and they will become adult. And now they will also go to fresh water, lay eggs, and they will die. Okay, so that's a migratory fish. So we have petromyzon or lamprey and Myxine hagfish. So petromyzon is the one which is migratory, which shows migration. Okay, so this is the diagram of the image of it. All right, guys. So what is spawning? Cyclostomes are marine but migrate for spawning. Spawning means laying eggs. Laying eggs. All right, next. Next, we have the superclass Pisces, the true fishes. These are what? True fishes. In the true fishes, the fins are present. Very true. In the true fishes, the fins are present. Now imagine this is your fish. Okay, this is a fish. Now we say that fishes have fins. They have fins. Fishes have fins. So fins are of two kinds. One are paired, another are unpaired. Okay, that means one which are single, another which are in pairs. So there are certain fins that are unpaired, which is at the caudal fin. Caudal means tail. This is the caudal fin. Caudal fin is tail, and there is only one tail, so caudal fin is also unpaired. Then we have the fin which are present on dorsal and ventral surface. You also have one dorsal side and one ventral side. So these fins, they are also unpaired. Dorsal fin and ventral fin. So what are unpaired fins? Dorsal, ventral, and caudal. So any organism, even if it was a cephalochordate and cyclostomate, they were fish-like. So they also had fins, which are these one. But paired was absent. Pairs are present in your fishes, true fishes, these Pisces. So they are pectoral and pelvic. Just like we also have pectoral and pelvic girdle, they are also paired. So they also have pectoral fin and pelvic fin. This is pelvic fin and this is pectoral fin, which are paired. Okay. The body is streamlined. Why? To cut the water current, because they are present or they're living in water. So we want to cut the water current. So just like birds have streamlined body, they are cutting the air current. On the basis of the body of birds, the airplanes have been designed so that they will also cut the water current. So on the body of fishes, these ships have been designed to cut the water current. Now, two-chamber heart is present. There is one auricle, one ventricle, one atria, one ventricle, right? And it pumps which blood? Deoxygenated blood. So blood from the tissues, body tissues, will enter into atria and go to gills. And gills will give it to the tissues, and from tissues the deoxygenated blood will enter into atria. So it's a two-chamber heart, always pumping deoxygenated blood. Now we have their poikilotherm. What are poikilotherm? Cold-blooded. These are organisms which cannot regulate the body temperature. For example, if I say we are warm-blooded or homeotherm, we have a fixed body temperature. If it goes up and down, we can regulate it. They cannot do that, right? Respiration through gills, excretion through kidney, they have lateral line sense organs. So in the center here, a lateral line sense organs are present that will detect water current. That will detect water current. Sexes are separate, one male, another female. Circulation, as I've told you, two-chambered heart. And portal system is also present. You know what is portal system? Yes. If you don't know, go to the body fluids and circulation, watch the chapter. That means you are that topic is weak. Okay. All right. Moving further to two different classes of fishes, chondrichthyes and ostisthyes. Chondrichthyes are the one which are cartilaginous. Ostisthyes are the one which are bony. So let's get started. Where do you find chondrichthyes? So whenever you have to learn about chondrichthyes, just remember sharks and rays like stingray, manta rays, right? And whenever you are talking about or you are learning about ostisthyes, remember labio. Okay. So where do you find shark? In your home? No. River? Oh no. Then you find it in marine water. So the cartilaginous fishes, they are always in marine water. They are in marine water. Now scales. The scales that are present in the cartilaginous fishes, they are placoid. Placoid scales are the scale which are teeth-like or tooth-like. They are like a teeth, like this. Okay. And later on, they form teeth also. They form teeth of the sharks also. If you have seen, sharks have teeth, right? And second thing, they have cycloid or ctenoid scale. Now, how do they look like? Cycloid are just like this, and ctenoid are like cycloid, but with these spines. Okay. The cartilaginous or the skeleton is cartilaginous. Here it is of bone. The mouth is ventral. If you have seen shark, the mouth of the shark is present on downside, right? And there is a snout at the anterior side like this. So their mouth, cartilaginous fishes, they have on a ventral side and they have terminal mouth. That means here. And they have mouth on this surface. All right. Gills, they have 5 pair, they have 4 pair. Operculum. What is an operculum? Gill cover. So gills are covered by operculum, which is present in the bony fishes. Also, there is a swim bladder or air bladder that helps in floating. And that's present in your which fish? Bony fish. So they do not have air bladder. Just like we have lungs and lungs have air. So that's why we can float on water. Okay. So just like that, if any fish have this air bladder, it can also float in the water. Those who does not have, they have to constantly swim so that they cannot get sink in the water. So these fishes, they do not have air bladder. So they have to swim to prevent sinking. To prevent sinking. Their excretory waste is urea. They have ammonia. They also store urea for maintaining osmolarity. And their fertilization is internal. They are viviparous. They do not lay eggs. They give birth to young ones. They hatch the babies and they will lay eggs. Usually which are laying eggs, they have external fertilization. There are certain exceptions which are land animals. Then the example Scoliodon, dawn. There was one dawn, Antidon, the lily, sea lily. But dawn here, it's a dog, dogfish, right? Who is a dawn of the street? Dogs. Pristis is a sawfish. Its mouth has a saw-like structure. Carcharodon is great white shark. Trigon is stingray. And torpedo is electric ray. Torpedo is the one which have modified muscles which generate electric current. The muscles have been modified and they generate electric current. Here in the marine water, we have Exocetus, the flying fish. Yes, it flies, right? How does it fly? It does not fly like a bird, but its pectoral fins are powerful and it can glide in water. Imagine there are certain birds on the water, so it will comes out of the water, catch the bird and go inside, right? Hippocampus is seahorse. This is a male that show parental care and hatch babies. In fresh water, we have labio, rohu, Katla is Katla, Clarias is magur. In aquarium fishes, we have betta, the fighting fish, and Pterophyllum, the angel fish. So they are aquarium fishes because they are very pretty, very beautiful. Okay. All right, guys, so that's about the fishes. Let's talk about the amphibians. Let's get started. So let's get started with the class Amphibia. Amphi means both. Bia means bios, that means life. They live both life, that means both in water as well as in land. So they live in land as well as in water. Okay, so from both life means in land and in water. So they lay eggs in water. So that's why you don't call them as true terrestrial organism. So they are the first to come on land after, because fishes were in water, right? But they are the not true land animals because somehow they're depending on water, because in the water they lay eggs and larva grows or larva develops. So that's why they are not true land animals. Okay, now, so these organisms have two pairs of limb. As you can see, these two are hind limb and these two are forelimbs. And you can see hind limbs are the, longer than the forelimbs. Okay, this is a frog. All right, tail may be present in some. So you can see this amphibian, that is Salamandra. This has tail. So there are two types of amphibians that lives exclusively in water, and one they live on land and go to the water for reproduction. Okay, so like frog and toad, they live on land but they go to water for reproduction. But Salamandra mostly lives in water. So they have a little different kind of a body. Okay. So here their skin are always moist because they have glands. It's glandular. Eyes have eyelids, as you can see here. If this is your frog, it has these eyelids. These have eyelids. Okay. Tympanum represents the ear. So if you remember the structure of our ear, the external ear have ear pinna, auditory canal, then tympanum. But they do not have auditory canal and the ear pinna. Straight away they have tympanum. So outer ear is represented by tympanum. So can you see any ear pinna in the frog? Have you ever seen that? No. Okay. Then cloaca is present. What is a cloaca? It's a common chamber. It's a common chamber for what? It's a common chamber for like your reproductive system, your digestive system, and excretory system. So all the ducts of these system, they open into a common chamber. Imagine this is cloaca and it will receive 3 ducts from different system, and then the cloacal aperture will throw the things out. So that's cloaca. It's present in the amphibians. The respiration takes place through gills in case of larva and aquatic amphibians. If the amphibian is aquatic, it will be respiring through gills, lungs and skin in case of land ones. Okay. Heart is 3 chamber with 2 auricle and 1 ventricle. They are cold-blooded, also known as poikilotherms. Sexes are separate. One is male, another female. External fertilization in water because they lay eggs. They are oviparous and they show indirect development. They have tadpole larva. So here we have different names of toad, like toad we call it as bufo, rana is frog, hyla is tree frog, salamander is salamander, ichthyophis is a limbless amphibian. Though all amphibians do not have scales, scales are absent. Scales are absent, but this ichthyophis have scales in the skin, inside the skin, or beneath the skin, basically below the skin. Okay, that's an exception. Then we have the one with the scales and true terrestrial and have a lot of terrestrial adaptation, that are your reptiles. The word reptiles come from reptum or rapper. That means to creep or crawl. What is creep or crawl? This is how a little baby walks. रेंगना, हिंदी में कहते हैं इसको रेंगना. So it creeps or crawls. Okay, so two pair of limbs are there, again forelimb and hind limb. They are mostly terrestrial. Body is covered by dry and cornified skin known as epidermal scales or scutes. If you have seen this crocodile, it has scales, dry body, dry skin, and have scales known as scutes. External ear opening is again absent. Tympanum is the one that will represents the ear. Heart is 3-chambered but 4-chambered in this guy, that is crocodile. We have done it in the circulation. They are also cold-blooded or peculiotherm. Some of the organisms that belongs to reptiles, which are snakes and lizard, they shed their skin as skin cast. Yes, you heard it right. They will shed skin. You have seen that some snakes, and in fact all snakes, they shed their skin, and from there you can find out if that skin is present. You can get to know that somewhere the snake definitely will be present. This is how those research fellows of Discovery and Net Geo, if you have seen how they how do they identify there is a snake, they will find out that their skin cast. Okay, then we have sexes separate. We have one nag and other nagin, right? And internal fertilization is there because they're land animals. Lay eggs and direct development. So their legs can be leathery and it can be calcareous. They have hard covering. Eggs with hard coverings. Mostly it's leathery. Okay. Example is Chelone, which is turtle. Testudo is tortoise. So most of you confuse the turtle, tortoise with amphibians and reptiles. Okay. So you think they live in water, so they're amphibians. No, 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 no. Just imagine they have a big their top on their body, that hard shell like. So that is a dry skin, right? That's kind of a scaly. So scales is present in reptiles, not amphibians. Then we have chameleon, the tree lizard that changes colors. Okay, Calotes is a garden lizard, crocodilus is crocodile, alligator, alligator, hemidactylus is wall lizard, that is in our homes. Poisonous snake is naja, which is cobra, Bungaris is crate, and vipera is viper. So you can see this is chameleon, this is crocodile, this is tortoise, and this is naja, the cobra. Okay, all right. So that's about reptiles, guys. Next we have aves, the birdies. So aves are known as glorified reptiles because these are the reptiles that have been or that have undergone a great evolution and they started flying. So if you see a bird, what is the first thing that you see? Their beak, right? So when we are a little child, what was the thing in bird that fascinates us? First, they fly. Second, their beak. So their jaw has been modified into beak. Okay. So yes, another thing that they have feathers on their body. So when we were very little, their feathers used to shed, and we, sometimes I used to collect that. Even my mother used to say, no, no, don't do that. They might be dirty, right? And that thing was really fascinating for us. So they have feathers. Most of them can fly except flightless bird like ostrich, kiwi. They cannot fly. Okay. They possesses beak, forelimbs are modified into wings. So just like a tetrapoda, it also have hind limb, and hind limbs, just like reptiles, have scales and these claws. But these are feathers and feathers covered wings. So we say that wings are modified forelimbs. They are modified forelimbs. Okay, now So hind limbs generally have scales and are modified for walking, swimming, clasping the tree branches. Skin is dry and it does not have any glands, right? It's also dry because reptile skin was also dry. They have no glands. Endoskeleton is bony, fully ossified. That means fully bony, no cartilage. Long bones have hollow cavity known as pneumatic bones. Now the larger bones, they have cavities in them. The reason is because if they have air cavities and not the bones, they will become light in weight. So because they want to fly and they cannot carry much of a weight, so nature have given them hollow cavities in the bones. The digestive tract of the bird have additional chamber, which is crop and gizzard. This sentence have been asked in the question of NEET twice, right? So one cockroach, another bird, they have crop and gizzard. Heart is completely 4-chamber. How many chambered heart? 4-chamber. Warm-blooded animals, these are warm-blooded, that means they're homeotherms. And respiration is by lungs, they respire through lungs. Sexes are separate, internal fertilization, they are oviparous. And oviparous, they will lay eggs. Eggs are calcareous. Eggs are calcareous. Okay, direct development. Corvus is crow. Okay, examples. Corvus is crow, Columba is pigeon, Cetacula is parrot, Ceti means whistle. So who speaks much? Who whistles? Parrot. Struthio is ostrich, Pavo is peacock, Aptenodytes is penguin, and Neophron is vulture. Let's see their images. So that's a Neophron vulture, that's a Struthio ostrich, that's parrot, and that's peacock. All right. Okay. So now the last one, which is us mammals. Mammalia. Habit. Where do you find them? You find them everywhere. Now, why they are known as mammals? Mammalia word comes from the word mamme. Mamme means breast. So all the organism that belongs to this class, they will definitely be having one character, that is mammary glands. All will be having mammary glands. Whether they're functional or not, that's different, but definitely they will be having. So you can find them everywhere, like polar ice caps, you find beer there, not the one of you drink, polar bear. Deserts, you have camel. Mountains, you have these monkeys. In forest, you also have monkeys. Grasslands, we have horses. In dark caves, we have bats, right? So these animals, they have adapted themselves to fly or live in water. Like in water, we have blue whale, and whale know how to swim. The unique characteristic feature is, that means this will be present in every mammal, is the mammary gland. They have 2 pair of limbs, skin have hair, external ear or pinna is present, heterodont dentition. What is heterodont dentition? Different types of teeth are present. Different types of teeth are present. Like we have incisor canines, premolars, molars. Right? Heart is 4-chamber. They are warm-blooded. There are 2 animals which are warm-blooded. One are birds, other as us. Respiration by lungs. Sexes are separate, one male, other female. Internal fertilization, viviparous except only one. Ornithorhynchus. Ornithorhynchus is duck-billed platypus. This one lays egg, but others all are viviparous. And direct development, no larva is there. Let's see the other examples, guys. Oviparous, Ornithorhynchus, platypus. Macropus is kangaroo. Pteropus is flying fox, your bat. Camelus is camel. Macaca is monkey. Rattus is rat. Canis is dog. Phallus is cat. Elephant, Elephas. Equus is horse. Delphinus is dolphin. Balonoptera is blue whale. Panthera tigris is tiger. Leo is lion. Now, ma'am, so much example. How to learn? Very simple. Okay, we'll start from here. Leo, lion. Tigris, tiger. B for Balonoptera, B for blue whale. D for Delphinus, D for dolphin. Okay. Now, Elephas is simple. Camelus is simple. Equus is horse. You will study this in evolution also, so you will remind it. Okay. Now, Rattus is simple rat. Canis and Phallus, they are always confusing. So you think C for canis, C for cat. No, Phallus. Phallus means fell. Who fells from jumping the fences? Cat or dog? Cat. Cat jumps from fences, right? So here, fell. Fell means fallen down. Who falls down? Cat. Then macaca, M for monkey, and pteropus is the only one that's different, flying fox. Macropus, macro means large. It's a part of a large country. That's Australia. Okay, that's about your animal kingdom, guys. And I'll suggest all of you to please solve previous year question. And previous year questions will give you an idea how to, you know, and what is more important and what is not. So I have covered the entire NCERT, and these notes are quite sufficient. Take the printout of this, in fact, and that will be very, helpful and useful for you to learn the animal kingdom. And what I want you, now I'm giving you a homework here. Okay. When I gave you homework, this earthquake came. So what's the homework? Homework is to solve all previous year questions. PYQs. What is PYQs? Previous year question. That's your homework. This time I am asking you to solve the questions. Will you do that for me? Will you do that for me? All right. So that's why I have not discussed the question, because animal kingdom is the one. For example, if you'll attend the lecture, it's not like you can easily solve the question. First, attend the lecture, split it into parts, learn it, ratify it, and then solve the question. This is how to learn the animal kingdom. Every chapter is different. Don't treat them equally. Human physiology was the different chapter. You understand it and you can solve the question. But here, split it into parts, learn it, and try to solve the question then. All right, I'll meet you in the next class and we'll be discussing biomolecules. Till then, lots of love. Bye-bye and take care.